want to talk about today psychology and the chakras. And this might sound like they're two conflicting things, and I work as a psychologist and I spent a lot of years studying psychology and working as a psychologist. And chakras are kind of like maybe airy-fairy or woo-woo type concepts. And that was really how I used to view them before I knew anything about the chakras. I started learning a bit about chakras when I started Kung Fu. So I was doing Kung Fu for a long time and studying about Qi energy. And the more I did Kung Fu and worked with my master, or my Shifu at the time, is we started to become aware of the energy around people, not just our physical energy or psychological energy, but our actual body's energy and the energy of our chakras. So I was started to become aware of energy centers within our body. So we've got 7 main chakras, and I started to be able to see them and sense them when I was at Kung Fu. And what I also started noticing outside of Kung Fu is I started noticing people's chakras. So it was quite a shock to me. I probably wouldn't have believed it initially myself if I hadn't seen them. But the more I sort of started to see them, I got to see that there was actually a connection between the chakras and our own psychological states. So particularly within my job and in my work, I could see that when people were feeling better and safer, that some of their chakras would settle and become more relaxed, and were in their depressed or heightened states, you see their chakras doing different things. So when we work on our psychology, we can actually influence our chakras, but also when we influence our chakras, we can improve our psychology. So they can actually bounce off each other. So for this talk, I wanted to really talk about how the chakras relate to psychology and how psychology can help with the chakras, and how the understanding energy can help with the psychology and our own mental state. So we have 7 main chakras, and they're spinning balls of light. Spinning wheels of light is actually what it means. And they're made up of the energy body. And so part of the energy body is our chakras, and also our aura, which is a reflection of what our chakras are doing a lot of the time. So each chakra corresponds to different emotional patterns within us and mental themes. So when a chakra is blocked or overactive, then it's going to mirror a psychological issue that we have. So when it's all balanced, those issues generally aren't going to be there. So in terms of our chakras, we have 7 main chakras, and they're the ones I'll talk about. So we have the base chakra, which is sort of located sort of just in between our legs, where our legs meet. And this chakra is linked to our safety and our stability and our early developmental experiences. So the more safe we feel, the more balanced that's going to be. What often happens if we have trauma or insecurity often showing up, or people always tell us to be careful, what that's going to do is make imbalances in that chakra. And what that's going to do for us is going to mean we're going to feel very scared a lot of the time. So a lot of anxiety comes from a programmed chakra with our core beliefs that don't actually serve us to feel safe on walking here on earth. So when we can understand and change our core beliefs, changing core beliefs also brings our base chakra back into balance. But so does shifting our base chakra energy can also help us start shifting core beliefs, so they can work from 2 ends. Often people with imbalanced base chakras, like OCD is a very common one, people who are very hoarders, or people who want so much tangible things. They usually have an imbalance in their base chakra. Then we have the sacral chakra, and the sacral chakra is one up, and it's just sort of above our navel. And so this chakra is linked to our emotions, linked to our creativity, our pleasure, and our sexuality. And so when we have emotional suppression or difficulty connecting with others, it often shows up as imbalances there. So a lot of the times, some people might be too active, so it might be too emotional, too much over the top, so it's an overactive one. Or it could actually be they're too muted in their emotions, which means they've learned to shut them down. So often people who are quite numb have very underactive sacrals, and people who are quite emotional, sometimes very, very creative artists, those types, they generally have sometimes overactive sacral chakras. So when we talk a little bit about understanding and allowing emotions and letting ourselves have pleasure, that can be useful when we want to make that more balanced from the place of being numb. We can also talk about, how do I add a little bit of logic to this chakra? How do I recognize that I don't have to just get carried away by my emotions, and be able to sit with them a little bit so that they don't control me? That also balances the sacral chakra from both sides. Then we have the solar plexus chakra, and that's the one sort of located at our solar plexus area. And that one's linked to our self-worth, our confidence, our boundaries, and our personal power. So when we have low confidence or difficulty asserting ourselves, then it's actually going to dim or make that solar plexus chakra work less efficient and more imbalanced. So we generally can result in like low self-esteem, hard to speak up for ourselves, hard to advocate for ourselves. It could also mean we just don't really feel like actioning things. We don't feel very able to move. It could also be the opposite. My solar plexus chakra could be quite overactive, which means I'm too active. I'm too much doing all the time. I'm not actually sitting still. And that could also mean that I have a heightened sense of who I am. I think I'm better than everyone else is usually an overactive solar plexus chakra. So when we're shifting beliefs about our self-worth and our self-esteem, what we're doing is helping bring more balance back to the solar plexus chakra. And also when we're sort of recognizing some compassion and how we see others, that's also going to bring that back as well for people who are a bit on the overactive side. Again, working on the energy of the solar plexus chakra can also improve our self-esteem too. So we can do it from this end or that end. Then we've got the heart chakra. So the heart chakra is the center one, and it's linked to love, compassion, empathy, emotional openness, and also self-love too. And often it gets shut down or created imbalances from experiences of grief, unresolved traumas, breakups, things like that. A lot of pain will cause us to want to shut that down. And the more we shut that down, the less we actually have our compassion and empathy, the more numb we become as well. So part of our goal with the heart chakra is to recognize that it's okay to feel. It's okay to let pain in and still let love in at the same time, because we only have the pain often because we have the love. So the more we are willing to let that in, the more likely that our heart chakra is going to be balanced as well. And again, we can do that from a psychological place through our decision making of being okay to feel the pain, being okay to love still nonetheless. But we can also do that from an energy perspective when we balance the heart chakra. So when we bring the balance to it, automatically let those things in a little bit more too. Then we have the throat chakra. And the throat chakra is about communication, expression, honesty, speaking our truth, and also listening. And a lot of the times this becomes imbalanced when we experience things like shutting our voices down. People tell us to be quiet or don't take us seriously. Or it could be that we're overactive when we are just always talking, and we actually don't stop to listen. So a lot of the times just being able to stop, learning words to communicate, that's going to really help us start to open up that throat chakra and get it balanced again. But so can also learning how to listen a little bit more can stop us when we're overactive on our third chakra. So reflective listening, really being there, inclined to listen without actually having to say something. It really brings that balance in there again. It also is about listening to ourselves. So when we can stop talking, we can also listen to ourselves and speak our truth a lot more too. So learning assertiveness skills, learning communication skills and expression, they're all ways psychologically we can improve the throat chakra, but again, energetically through sometimes energetic healing, through just focusing on the throat chakra, we can bring balance to that. Then we have the third eye chakra. And this one's linked to our intuition, our insight, our clarity, and our perceptions. And that's what it controls. If we're always overthinking or if we have confusion, it could be overactive. If we're kind of just very, very emotional all the time and don't have enough thought, then sometimes it becomes underactive too. So a lot of times here it's about how do I think in a way that actually matches the world? How do I think in a way that serves me better? How do I have more clarity in my perceptions to see things in a way that gives me more peace? And the more we practice that type of thinking, the more we're opening up the ability of the third eye chakra to balance itself. Again, the more we're okay to feel the emotions and let them through a little bit, we also balance the third eye chakra with how it thinks about the emotions too. Because how it looks at emotions can shut the emotions down, and then the more that's shut down, this one becomes too strong. The more we let the emotions in, this one just slows down a little bit, because it could be equally true that I don't need to feel sad, but equally true that I do feel sad. So we really want to have that balance there. Then we have the crown chakra, which is the seventh one. That's the top of our head up here. And this one's linked to meaning, connection, consciousness, and our spiritual orientation. And it's often when it's underactive, we feel really disconnected from life. We feel like we have no purpose. We might feel a sense of dread. When it's too open, we might feel very disconnected from living on earth. We might feel like we just want to live in light and air all the time. And that's really not that useful either. So sometimes stopping to contemplate our sense of purpose, what we really want to do, what we feel is important to us, is a really good way to start getting that chakra back in balance. Also, grounding ourselves, being back on the earth, being back to where we are and being willing to live this human journey is also going to bring it balance if it's overactive. So healing can happen from the psychological place, it can happen from the energetic place, it can happen both, and it does happen at any way. Usually as someone heals psychologically, the corresponding chakra will open up and stabilize. But also as we heal energetically, it also happens the same way. So any emotional breakthroughs will show up as an energetic shift, which will create a change in the balance of the chakras. Really balanced chakras will be something to help us feel more grounded, clear, expressive, loving, and empowered. And each chakra work complements the psychology work as well, so you can bring them both together. If you can understand both, then you don't have to just choose psychology or spirituality or working on the chakras. You can actually use them in there. And it gives a multi-dimensional view of well-being, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And it helps us become more aware of our internal life, not just our mental life as well. Our energetic life too. So we've got our energetic life, our mental life, emotional life, and our physical life. And all four are important when it comes to living our life more fully and holistically.